Hello, I'm here today to show you how to make sourdough. So, if you've ever tried to make sourdough and found it to be a little bit difficult or intimidating, that's why I'm making this video. I know that this is not the regular that we would normally do, like travel stuff, but I've had a lot of people tell me that they just struggle making sourdough. Either they've, I don't know, maybe didn't get a great recipe to start out with, or they killed their starter. That's happened a few times. It happened to us once. Or maybe they thought they did. But anyway, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with making sourdough. It's definitely chemistry, it's baking. Those things can be hard. So I have a pretty easy recipe and method, I think. And so I'm just here to show you how to do that. I know it's not our usual travel type of stuff that we typically do videos of, but there's just been a lot of demand for this. So here we are, gonna learn how to make sourdough today. And I try to do this about once a week because with my travels, I'm not home enough to do it every day. I have a really good friend, hi Cassandra, who started me on making sourdough in the first place. She gave us our first starter along with a beautiful Dutch oven, which is on the stove. I don't know if you can see that behind me. And so we got started making sourdough because of her. She does make it like every day, I think, or a lot anyway, a lot more than I do. But I just don't have the time freedom to do that. So once a week, and it's time to do that. I go to work tomorrow, start another trip. So I need to take care of my starters. So we'll talk about that first. The starter was given to me, like I said. I keep mine in the fridge because I can only get to it once a week. So I feed it after I make bread. You want to make bread when your starter is hungry. So I've got the date written here on my little jar so that I can keep track. I use a grease pencil and I just write the date when I feed it. But I want it hungry when I'm starting my sourdough. So I'm going to start with this that's in here. And then when I'm done using it, then I will feed it and put it back in the fridge. So that's what we're working with. I happen to have two because at some point I got a little bit overzealous, I guess, in feeding them. And I've been playing with some different increments on recipes and how much to feed it. So I ended up with a lot and it was getting bigger and bigger. And so I just split it into two jars. And now I have two. And that's great because I tend to make 2 to 3 loaves a week, sometimes four at one time. So I have 3 Dutch ovens now. And so what I used to do when I only had one is I would make one loaf and I'd keep the other loaf in the fridge. And then I would reheat the Dutch oven again and make a second loaf. But now I can make in the oven. I have a big enough oven that I can fit 2 Dutch ovens. So I will make 2 loaves at a time. And then sometimes I will reheat them again and go for a third or fourth loaf if I am so inclined. Depends on if I'm making bread to take to somebody else, which I do that a lot. So there's a kit that came with this little cover, along with one that's big enough to go over the bowl, and then a bag that has it's cloth and it has a drawstring, and it's for storing the bread after it is cooked or baked. So you don't want to store your bread in a Ziploc or plastic because it causes it to mold a lot faster. Like sometimes just 2, 3 days it'll start to mold, and the bread is better when it's fresh. So I do recommend either wrapping in a kitchen towel or getting a specific bag for sourdough storage. There's like beeswax wraps as well, but that's where I got this from. When I first started, I did not have these, like I said. So what I would do is just cover them with some layered cheesecloth. I'd fold it up a few times, put the cheesecloth on, and then I would put a rubber band over it. So you do want to cover, but it also needs to be able to breathe because this is a living entity. It is doing its thing with the yeast and the bacteria and whatever makes sourdough the magic that it is. So you do need something to put on your jars. The other thing about the jar, you may have noticed, this is just a cylindrical jar. It has a wide mouth. It does not have a narrowed mouth. That's going to be the most conducive. Probably the size is also around, I'm guessing 24 ounces. I don't know if it says on here. Okay, it looks like maybe 18 ounces. And that seems to be enough for the amount that I make. All right, so I recommend just a few clean jars. You want to change out the jar each time that you feed your starter. You want to put what's left of the starter after you've used it for your bread and put that in a new jar. And then I always label with the date with a grease pencil so that I know when I last fed it. and then it goes back in the fridge for about a week at a time. Okay, so let's get started making some bread. This, I'm going to have 2 bowls. I have heard that people are adamant against using stainless steel. I have had no problem whatsoever. I always make it in stainless steel because this is what I have. But I guess it's better to use glass, maybe wood. I don't know. Use what you have. Don't go out and spend a fortune on making sourdough. That's kind of defeating the purpose. The other thing is you're going to need a scale. That was the other thing my friend gave us with our Dutch oven and our starter was a scale. This is the scale. So I am going to set the unit to grams on here. I'll come up and show you that real close. So right now it's saying a different number, of course, because I'm holding it, but it says grams right there. And you can change the unit right here. This button over here also will allow me to zero it out once I've put my bowl on top. And that lets me measure even though there's a bowl on here. So I put the bowl on, it's now showing me it's like almost 300 grams. I'm going to hit that button on the left and it's going to zero it out. It's called tare. That's the T-A-R-E. That's the term for that if you're not familiar with the way kitchen scales work. And those are really cheap. You can get those on Amazon or any kind of cooking store, I'm sure Walmart, whatever. Any place that sells homeware kind of things, kitchen things would have that. And I'm sure that there is a large spectrum of cost and design and all that. You don't need anything fancy. Just get a basic kitchen scale. Okay, so now that I have my bowl on my scale and it's zeroed out, I'm going to start first with my water measurement. My recipe calls for 385 grams of water. So I'm going to take my water from my sink here and just fill in the bowl directly. I used to measure it into a measuring glass and try to get that perfect, and that was really tedious. So I said, you know what, let's skip the middleman and go straight to measuring it from the spout. I got too much, probably because I'm talking. I'm at 409 grams, so I'm going to dump some of that out. Just a little bit. I might have to go back and forth and play around till I get the right number, but I'm looking for 385. And sometimes I'm over by a skosh, 386, 387, or under 384. I'm not too worried about that. That doesn't seem to make a difference if I'm a little over, a little under. So close enough. Okay, I'm at 383. I'm happy with that. I'm going to go with that. So next is my starter, and I'm going to do one of these at a time. I will end up doing 2 total. Move this bowl out of the way. By the way, I have all the ingredients here that I'm going to need. It is so simple. It's starter, it's salt, it's water, and it's flour. That's it. So really easy to make. I'll be right back. I'm just going to get a spatula here. I should have gotten that out before. So I have my nice little silicone spatula, and I'm going to just give this a little stir because it's been sitting for a week without any action in the fridge, and it looks great. It's nice and white, kind of an off-white color. It's got a little bit of an elasticity to it. It's in good shape. It's a little bit not foamy, but like, I guess, I don't know. It just, I can show you. It just has a lot of elasticity. So it looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to add that in here, and I need 90 grams of my starter. I do not know what these translate into in cups or anything else because I've always used grams because that's what my recipe said. So I'm going to just start pouring in, and I already have the 385. Now I could zero it out to add my 90, but I know that's pretty simple math. 385 plus 90 is 475. Did I say 385 plus 90? Yes, it's 475. So sometimes I forget what I just said. I am going to just pour this in until I get the right amount. I'm pretty good at catching it before it goes too far. Again, if it goes over by a tiny bit, not a big deal. You can't take it back out because it's in the water. So you do want to start backing off once you get close to the number you're looking for. But I take my chances. It's a little risky maybe to do it this way, but it works for me. Okay, so we're real close. Yeah, I'm at 474 and I was at 383. Oh, it's 473. I got that spot on. 90 exactly. Okay, I'm going to put the lid or the cover back on only because it's fruit fly season and they're everywhere right now and they like sourdough for some reason. So that's done. Now, before I add anything else, I'm just going to take my little mixer. Now, when I started doing this, I didn't have this guy. This came in one of those kits that I ordered for sourdough stuff. And actually, I don't even use most of the stuff that came in that kit. because I'm not all that advanced. I just make bread. I don't do anything fancy. So in the beginning, I would just use a fork. Use what you have. Wooden spoon works well. Spatula, anything you're just mixing it up. But it does get sticky because it's dough. So all I'm doing is I am stirring in the water and a starter. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Just mixing it together, putting it back on the scale. The number is going to be the same as it was a second ago. And now I'm going to add my salt. And I need 12 grams of salt. So again, you can measure it. It ends up being, I think, around 2 teaspoons, tablespoons. I can't remember. It's been a while since I measured it. I'm going to sprinkle it right in. So I am looking for, what did I say? 473. So we're going to go 485. Just a little at a time. Because a little bit makes a big difference. All right, we're there. Perfect. Okay, that's all the salt that I need. And now the flour. Now the flour takes a lot of flour. I go through a ton of flour when I'm making bread regularly. I had a friend bring me a 50-pound bag and it lasted me maybe 2 months, I think, if that. And I was making more bread then because I was baking for other people and just had more time on my hands, I guess. So wouldn't go through it as fast with only making bread once a week, but 50-pound bags are heavy. They're hard to find storage for. If you have that, great, go ahead. I have found at Costco that I can get, I think they're 12-pound bags or 15-pound bags, something like that. And I just buy 3 or 4 of those and keep those in my pantry. And then I fill this guy to make it more manageable. I am looking for bread flour specifically, not all purpose, nothing else. Bread flour. It has to say that. The other thing is organic is better. You're going to get a better quality ingredient. I think it's worth it to pay for a better brand, a better beginning flour than to go cheap on it because you are making a really beautiful, delicious loaf of bread that's good for your gut health and has good bacteria in it. So why would you put some non-organic, cheap flour in there? I think that that's going to take away, detract from your final product. You might not taste the difference, but I know that in the quality of what you're actually digesting, there's a difference. So my personal opinion is go for the organic, good quality flour. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. All right, I'm going to take my little measuring scoop out. I use this to feed my starter. You'll see that in a little bit. So again, I'm just dumping it right in there. It ends up being, I don't know, a lot of flour. But I'm looking for what is it to remember? 520 grams of flour. So we left off at, get it to wake up. We left off at 485. Okay. So we're going to go for 1005. And I'm not the best mathematician, but I have been doing this enough that I've gotten used to these numbers. I've remembered them from reading the ingredients and the recipe over and over and over every time I make it. I even got to the point of highlighting and circling the key things that I needed to remember just to really streamline it because it can be very detailed and again, overwhelming. So I'm just looking for the 520, which puts me at 1,005, or wait, no, did I say 15? That's 1,005. Okay. I'm really close to this. So just tapping. Don't want too much to go in. Okay, there we go. So you can see how much flour I just used. It's a lot. All right, so there's my first bread dough. Excuse me. I am going to go ahead and make the next one before I stir that because I just like to have them kind of going at the same time. They're going to rest for the same period of time, so I'm just going to start. Just a little too much again. Came out fast. Okay. Beautiful. Oh, real close. Let's just do a little more. 385 on the money. Perfect. Okay. Now we are going to use this starter because I already used the other one. Give it a little stir. All right. 90 grams for a total of 475. It's kind of thick, so you have to be careful because you end up getting a large addition on your scale all of a sudden when it plops in. Getting close. Really close. Tiny bit more. That did it. Okay, once again, on the money, honey. All right. So I'm going to mix that together again just to get the starter and water combined. Done. I'll do my salt next. So we're at 475. So we're going to 475. So we have 12. So we're looking for 487. 487. A little more. A little more. Come on. So close. There it is. Oh, it blinked to 487 for just a second. So we just want the tiniest amount. Maybe. Come on. Okay, there we go. 487. Great. My math might have been wrong earlier on the other one. I'm not worried about it. Again, it'd be such a small amount, it won't make a difference. Okay, 487. Now we've got the flour coming in for 520. So that puts us at 1007. That is correct math. That's what I always shoot for. When I get it right on the money, it's exactly 1007. That's what it should be. So here we go with the flour again. Lots of flour. Guess that's my phrase of the day, huh? Right on the money. I've been saying that a lot. I'm also getting flour on my shirt. That's okay. It's just flour. It dusts off. I do have an apron. I recommend, especially for the mixing and the next steps later when we start to knead the dough. An apron's a good idea. I end up with a lot of crusty flour dough stuff on my clothes if I don't use an apron. Okay, 1007. We're really close. There it is. Perfect. Okay. So we're done like that until we feed the starters again, which we'll do in a bit. We have other things to do first. So move that over there. Put the lid back on, keep those fruit flies at bay. And we're going to stir this and mix it in. I'm going to bring you over so you can watch how I do that. So I'm just trying to get the flour wet, mixing it in with the water, which takes a bit. Oh, and there I go, splashing it out of the bowl. See, again, doesn't have to be perfect, exactly perfect. You're looking for very, very close, but not exactly perfect. Because let's face it, you're not going to get it perfect every time. And if you're at all clumsy like me, you're going to end up with a lot on the counter. Okay, so you can see how it just gets really thick and sticky. I'm just trying to get that off the edges. And I want to make sure that there's no flour sitting at the bottom that didn't get mixed in. So I'm scraping that all off because I want every bit of it that I can get. And yeah, that looks pretty good. It's going to look what they call shaggy. That's the phrase I've heard or read. It'll have a shaggy quality to it like this. And that's okay. And we're just going to take that extra that's stuck on the spoon or the mixer, whatever this is, and put it back in there. Stick it to the dough. Okay, good. That is it for mixing. Okay, so the next step, after you have both bowls mixed together is, or the one if you're just doing one, which you probably are, is to get a towel. I just use a kitchen towel. I'm going to get this wet. I like to use warm water because the warmth helps the yeast to grow faster and helps the bread to proof a little bit faster. So I'm just going to try to get this a little bit warm. And then I leave it sitting on my kitchen counter. Now the temperature varies in this kitchen a lot. I don't know if you see the sun shining behind me. It was over, I don't know, in the corner a little bit ago when we started this video, but it moves because I have skylights in my kitchen. I also have quartz countertops, which they stay pretty cold even when it's warm in here. So temperature does make a difference. You really want your dough to sit in a warmer temperature while it's proofing. So yeah, I'm just going to get most of the moisture out of that, but I'm not worried about it being bone dry. I do want some humidity in this. And then I'm just going to cover those bowls and let them sit here at room temperature. And I'm going to start a timer for 15 minutes. And after 15 minutes, I'm going to come back and do my first set of stretches on the dough. All right, so I'll see you in 15 minutes. Good time to go check the laundry. Okay, so 15 minutes has passed, and now it's time to do our first set of stretches. I always take off my rings because you're going to get a lot of dough in there. So here's what the dough looks like right now, just like pretty much like it did 15 minutes ago. But it's had a little bit of time to rest, so we're going to do some stretches with it. So I like to have some water going just a little bit because it'll keep your hands from being as sticky. I can also just have a bowl of water sitting nearby. I do that sometimes. So I'm just going to get in here and scoop this dough up like this and get it kind of all into a ball. And I'm going to bring this camera over so you can really see what I'm doing. But for the first stretches, I'm just pulling it up and then I'm rotating the bowl a quarter turn, pulling it up and pressing it down on top of itself. More water, quarter turn, scooping it up, pulling it on top of itself, quarter turn, scooping it up, pulling it on top of itself. And I do that until I start to feel some resistance in the dough. So it's going to start taking a little bit of shape as well. It's going to start looking a little bit more like a ball of dough and a little smoother. But it's also going to stretch less. You're going to find that it's harder to pull on it. You get that resistance. That's when you know that it's going the right way. So I just do probably a total of 3 times around. So quarter turn, quarter turn, quarter turn, full rotation. That's 1 time around. So I probably do that 2 to 3 times. I'm going to do one more on this one because it still feels a little loose to me. And a lot of this is by feel, and you just learn as you go. And I've had some times where the dough feels different, and I don't know why. Could be the temperature, could be the humidity, could be altitude, who knows? It's a fickle thing, but it still usually always turns out great. So that's the first one. Here's what it looks like now. That was its first set of stretches. I'm going to cover it back up with this moist towel. And then we'll do the next one. And I'll show you that up close here. Okay, so now you can watch a little bit closer to see how I do this. Okay, so I'm scooping this whole ball up. And then I'm going to just grab and pull it on top of itself. So I'm picking it up, pulling it on top of itself. Quarter turn, picking it up, pulling it on top of itself. Quarter turn, same thing. That's 1 rotation. See, my hands are getting a bit doughy. It's sticky. So a little more water. That helps to smooth it up off the bowl a little bit. And you might notice I have my apron on now because this is where I tend to get a lot of dough on my belly from the bowl pushing against me as I go. So I'm on my 3rd rotation. I don't normally count, but it is feeling much firmer. So I'm done. And I'm going to go ahead and flip it on the opposite side. And then that will go back under this towel to rest for another 15 minutes. So I'll check back with you then. So while I'm waiting, I'm going to go ahead and do the starter measurements that I talked about earlier and feed it. Basically, that's what we're doing. We're feeding the starter. So I'm going to get new jars to put these in, and then we're going to go ahead and feed the starters. So I know that I talked about earlier how I did everything by weight. That is for making the bread. As for the starter measurements, I do that by measuring cups. That's just because I have a book that talks about how much to feed your starter. I used to do it by weight. I've been told 1 to 1 to 1, water, starter, flour. I've been told quarter cup water, quarter cup flour into the starter you have. A lot of different things. And I've tried all of them. They all tend to work pretty similarly in terms of the consistency of the bread at the end. When I did the 1 to 1 to 1 ratios, I found the bread getting a little bit denser and not quite as fluffy and moist. So the ratios that I use now are by what I read in this book called Wild Bread. If you want to look it up, it's a beautiful book. It's like a nice coffee table book, but it has a lot of good information as well. So I'm going to take what's remaining in my starter, which always ends up being a half cup. I don't know how that magically turns out, but that's what I end up with is a half cup. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that in from the old jar to the new jar because I want a clean jar to start with. Also, you'll notice that over time, even just letting it sit in the fridge for a week, you end up getting a lot of hardened flour mixture on the edges of your jar, and it turns into like concrete. It's really hard to get it off. When you go to wash it, you have to let it soak for a long time. So even after a week, it's going to be like that. But if you use the same jar for more than 1 week, which I did in the beginning because I didn't know I was supposed to switch jars, it would just get this really thick, sort of dried out dough crust on the jar that made it impossible to clean. So new jar each week. And I get as much of this out as I can. I'm making a little bit of a mess because I always do. But got it pretty well cleaned out. I really wish I was a cleanup person by nature. I wish that I didn't make such a mess. I always want the jar to be clean and pretty when I'm done, but it never is. So sorry, this isn't the Today Show. It's not going to look perfect. But I'm not perfect and I make a lot of messes, as I've said. So that means you can too, and it's not a big deal. It's fine. We'll just clean it up. No problem. All right. Getting my second one. Again, you're probably only going to have one starter. You might be asking, how do I get a starter? What if I don't have a friend who has a starter? What if I killed my starter? The honest answer is I don't know. I've never made a starter. I had my friend give me hers. So I do know that there are lots of recipes for starters online. There are kits you can buy even that are like sourdough starters in a packet that you add to. I don't really know what that entails. I have one and I never used it because I was too scared of how hard it would be to make sourdough to ever start until my friend helped me. So I would say Google it. That's probably your best bet. Find a recipe online. I did notice that some recipes call for rye flour and others don't. That's another ingredient to buy. I'm pretty sure my starter does not have rye flour in it. So that's going to be your discretion. I also know the book that I was talking about, Wild Bread, has a starter recipe in it as well. However, that's all I've gotten from that book so far is my ingredient measurements for my starters once they've already been established. And then also there's that recipe in there that I have not used, but I do not follow the technique that they use at this point. I'm going to at some point. I'm going to try it. It's a lot. I have to buy more equipment to do that method. Seems a little bit more involved, and I don't know if it's going to make a difference. From what I've learned so far, it's a lot more forgiving than you think it's going to be, and the bread just turns out pretty good almost every single time. I've had a couple flat loaves, but I think it's because I let my starter go too long without feeding it. I guess just try it. Just experiment. What do you have to lose? A little bit of flour, kind of a lot of flour, some water, some salt. That's it, and some time. But You're going to perfect it over time. You're going to feel it out for yourself. You're going to feel out what works best in your environment, your temperature, your humidity, your altitude. All of those things are going to play a factor. Okay, so we've got the starter poured into the new jars. And now I'm going to do the water next. I need let's see, let me think. So it's half cup of starter, quarter cup of water, and then 3/8 cup flour. So here's a quarter cup. So just a quarter cup of water. And of course, you're also going to hear things like it has to be filtered or it has to be this or that, temperature, whatever. I don't care. I'm just putting it in from the tap. We do have very good water up here, though, in my neck of the woods. So we don't even have to filter it to drink it straight out of the tap. It's really, really good. All right. Got the water mixed in. Just going to stir it up so that it's the right thickness, consistency for the flour to go in, so the flour doesn't just sit on top and make it thicker and harder to stir. Okay, so 3/8. Just use my finger to level it off. I'm really not super precise. You may have noticed. So you don't have to be. A lot of people think you do. A lot of people are. Good for them. You don't have to be. If it's too hard, you're not going to want to do it, right? I know I don't. So keep it simple. Stir that in. It's kind of like the dogs, they tell you what. What was that for? Nothing even happened. Just bark for no reason. You're going to stir it in until it's like a thick pancake consistency. And I'll show you that once I get it all mixed up. By the way, I'm doing this while we're waiting for the second set of stretches, that 15-minute timer I set. We have 5.5 minutes left. So, good time to do this. And I'm going to let this sit on the counter tonight while, or during the day, I guess, while the bread is proofing before we bake it. And that's just going to let it be at room temperature because I feel like it does its thing better and faster at a warmer temperature. So if I stick it straight in the fridge, it's not a big deal. I've done that plenty of times. But I kind of want to let it do its thing first and not have that be slowed down by the temperature of the fridge. So that is it. I'm going to show you these. Okay, this one, thicker than what we were putting into the dough and less elasticity because it's not activated yet. It hasn't done its thing. And then for some reason, this other starter I got, which is exactly the same, tends to be a little bit different. Today it looks the same. I don't know. Sometimes it's thinner. I still end up getting the same result on my loaves though. So that's a good thing. All right. So those are sitting. Those are ready to rise and do their fun yeasty activities that they do. I don't really know the science behind sourdough all that much. I know it's alive and it goes good with wine. And wine's also a living thing. So I don't know, yeast, they have that in common. Anyway, I'm going to put these on the counter. I'll just leave them here, actually. Let them sit. I'm done with my flour now. I've been done with my salt since before. We have 5 minutes to go, and then we'll do some more stretches. All right. All right, we are ready for the second set of stretches. And it's going to be just like last time, exactly the same. Get my hands wet. Scoop that dough into a ball. Pull, fold on top of itself. Turn a quarter, fold on top again. Turn a quarter, pull and fold. Another quarter, pull and fold. Back to the beginning. A little more water. Pull and fold. It's getting harder to pull it up. It doesn't get as long now. So I also am kind of anchoring down the whole ball while I pull with the other hand. I'm using my left hand to scoop and pull, but I'm holding the rest of it down with my right hand so that it doesn't come up out of the bowl. So That's my third rotation. It's getting really hard to pull it now. It's done. So now I flip it over so that all those folds are on the bottom. And I don't know if you can see, it's basically a ball shape, and it's a lot smoother than it had been. And the next time I look at it, which will be in several hours, it's going to be even smoother than it is right now. So going back to this other one, which is kind of a shaggy mess still, smoother than the first time around, grabbing that into a ball, pulling up and folding, up and folding, up and over. Okay, that's one rotation already. It's got about half as much stretch as the first time around. And up and over. We go one more time around. And that's the last one. And I'm going to flip it and stick it back under the towel. And now it's just going to sit here on the counter under this moist towel for a good, really, a minimum of like 6 hours, I think, depending on the temperature in the room. It's a little chillier in here today. But as you can see, I'm in the sun. The sun's moving across the kitchen right now. So it might warm up a little bit into the afternoon from this morning. So I'm going to say my loaves are going to sit, or my dough is going to sit for about, probably 7 or 8 hours today. You can go longer. It can go 10, 12. Originally, when I started making bread, it said 12 hours. And then you check for the proofing to see if it's done by putting a little flour in your finger and poking it, and whether it springs back or dips in or all this stuff about when it's done. I found that doesn't make a whole lot of difference. You don't want it underproofed. That's the big thing. If it's overproofed, you go ahead and make the bread anyway. Life is busy and hectic, and sometimes we don't get back to it when we want to or expect to. So, and sometimes we start late. Today, I started very late. Normally, I would be doing this by 9 or 10 in the morning and then come back to it in the evening or late afternoon. But today, I had an appointment to get my hair done. So I didn't get started until like 1 o'clock. It's now 3 o'clock. Maybe I got started even later than that. It's 3 o'clock right now. I don't have a whole lot of time to let it proof. But if I let it go till 9, I've got 6 hours. So I'll check it around 9 o'clock tonight. It might be 10 or 11. I stay up late. That's not a big deal. If you don't stay up late, start earlier. You definitely have to get back to it. If you can't start early enough to finish it by the time you go to bed, in terms of the stretches, not the baking part, just the stretches. There's going to be 2 sets. We did the 2 sets of original stretches, and then there's going to be one more round that we do once it's done proofing, and that's going to look a little bit different in the terms of how it's stretched. But we do that again, and that's going to be like around 6, 8, 10 hours later. So if you don't have time for that second step, don't start. Or start late at night before you go to bed and then come back to it in the morning. So you had 8 hours of sleep, let's say, and you have time to come back in the morning and do it. That's fine too. You just don't want to do this first part that we just did, which normally all of this, I mean, you've got 2 15-minute breaks. So you've got a half an hour of resting time, plus the time it takes to stretch, which is about a minute, plus the time it takes to mix it all up, which is about 3 minutes. So you're looking at 35, 40 minutes tops just to get to this stage. Because we're doing a video, it took me a little longer. It won't take you that long. But then if you get to that second stage and it's, you had to go to bed because you waited too long to start, that's going to be not so great for the bread. So as long as you can get that first, I'm going to say about 8 hours between the first part and the second part, then you're fine because you can stick it in the fridge and you can leave it overnight and bake it the next day. And that's what I do a lot of times. So I'm going to try to bake mine tonight, but I might not. I might just have to do the next set of stretches, which we will record, and then put it in the fridge and bake it tomorrow, or have my husband bake it because I have to go to work tomorrow morning. So we'll see how it goes. Just got to try to plan that part a little bit. Okay. I will check back with you then in 6 or 7 or 8 hours, depending on what this looks like and what my day looks like. All right. Okay, so we're back. and we're ready to do the next step with the sourdough. So we have to see if it's done proofing. So we do that by getting a little bit of flour on your finger, and then you're just gonna poke the middle of the bread and see how it just went in and it didn't stick to my finger or anything, and it didn't boing back up either. It probably should boing up a little bit, but I don't have any more time. So we're doing this now. So this stage, you really have some sticky dough to deal with. You can see it's like really stuck to the bowl that it's in. So you need some water. So again, I'm just going to keep the water running on low and keep my hands pretty wet for this. So I'm going to just go in and scoop around like we did earlier to make a ball out of the dough. And then I'm going to pick the whole thing up. And I'm getting it sort of halfway in the middle of that ball and just letting it hang. And I'm going to let it hang. Now, some people might just hold it like this for a long time as it hangs. And we're trying to get it to drop like 1 or 2 feet. I'm impatient, so I bounce it. I don't know if I'm supposed to. I'm making a video about sourdough, and I've never watched a video about how to make sourdough. But this is what I do, and it always works. So if I'm not supposed to, no one ever told me, and I don't care. I do what works. See how much it's stretched already? That's great. And it's also not breaking. So that's a sign that it's probably done proofing. So I think we did wait a good amount of time. So now I'm just going to fold it back onto itself, sort of in a ball, and put it back in the bowl. We don't need this towel anymore. Get rid of that. But now look at the difference already just from that one stretch. Quite a bit of difference. So now I'm going to do the next one. And again, if you're just making 1 loaf of bread because you only have 1 starter or you didn't have enough to make 2, that's fine. But as you know, I had 2 starters, so I'm making 2 loaves. I could break these in half and make 4 loaves out of the 2 starters. So that means you could probably make 2 loaves out of just 1 starter if you wanted to. But you want to make sure that you have at least a half a cup of starter left over for your next batch when you're going to feed that. So again, I'm just stretching it, letting it bounce. I got cocky once and held it like this over the floor, and then it broke. And then it was full of dog hair. So don't do that. Just hold it over the bowl or the counter. It's fine. But I did that because my shoulder got tired. I wanted to rest my arm and bring it down lower. So it did not pay off. But look at how much of a stretch we got already just from that amount of bouncing. You can do some fun stuff if you want. But there it is. Okay. What you should not do, it feels like it's going to break. What you should not do is pull on it though. That doesn't work out well. All right. So we've got 2 long pieces of bread dough, and now we let it sit for like 60 seconds. So we're going to just fast forward to that part, and then we'll do more. That's probably long enough. It's been 60 seconds since I did the first one, I think. Okay, so again, same thing again. I'm gonna grab it, pick it up. I actually love this stage because it's just really easy to handle. I have seen in some instruction manuals to have a sill pad or just a clean counter and put it on that, and it's supposed to sit in this ball and you can do all the stuff you're gonna do. Mine are never that firm. They don't stay, but you can see this one has already firmed up quite a bit. It's not dropping as much as the first one, but they don't stay in this nice little ball independently unless they're in a bowl that holds it that way. So I don't know if that has to do with the flour ratio or why mine doesn't do that. I'm sure I have a lot to learn, but this is like, again, beginner's guide. You just want a nice tasty loaf that's not dry or dense. And that's what I'm teaching you to do. So that one started to feel like it was going to break. So I'm going to kind of stretch it from the other side now. And my hands are sticking. So I got to get more water. And we're going to just stretch it from the other side a little bit. So again, it's not going to stretch as much on this second time because it's already been stretched. So it just doesn't have as much elasticity. It's a little bit more resistant, which is what we want. That's a good thing. It means it's working. This time though, instead of dropping it back into the bowl that I started with, which is now coated in old dough, I'm going to be putting it in a clean bowl, and I'm going to be putting in one of these guys, which I don't know if you've ever worked with Silpat, but it's similar to that. It's like a silicone thing. I don't even know what they call these. Oh, there's the dog. She always likes to chime in. We're going to put this in the bottom of the bowl. This is for a round loaf pan or Dutch oven. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's going to keep the dough from sticking to the bowl as much. It might get a little bit on the sides, but it's okay. But that is going to be really easy to lift out with these two handles and then put that right into my Dutch oven, making the transfer very quick and just a lot less of a pain in the butt. If you don't have those, that's okay. I got those in one of those kits that I ordered. And this guy's done. It doesn't want to stretch anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of ball it up and drop it in there. And it's done. Anyway, you can use parchment paper. Some of them are nonstick, some of them aren't. So you do want to pay attention to that. The nonstick is my preference for sure. But you can just put the parchment paper in the bowl, and you can even sprinkle some flour in there if you want to make it a little bit less sticky. This one is going to be for my oval shaped Dutch oven. So this is what I use to make like a sandwich bread loaf. So I'm going to still put it in this round bowl, but it's now ready for this next loaf. Now this is what my dough looks like after stretching it again. It's a little bit shaggy again. That's okay. And this is the one that I haven't stretched yet. It's much smoother, but it's going to look like that in a second. I'm also adding more water to it when I pick it up, so that's going to change the consistency a little bit. But yeah, you can use some nonstick parchment paper and just put it in the bowl, and then you're going to put your dough in there, and that's all going to go in the fridge for about an hour. Well, not about. Is exactly an hour. That's how long it takes to preheat the oven. We'll get to that in a second. It can go longer than an hour, but at least an hour minimum. And then you're going to just pick that parchment paper up and just drop it right into the Dutch oven. So it makes transfer really, really simple. All right, so we're stretching our second loaf here. And it's behaving pretty much the same as the other one, so it's doing good. Just trying to get some length on it. I guess this helps with the gluten proteins, getting those stretched out so that you have a better texture. And then again, I'm just folding it in half and doing the same thing to get a little bit more stretch out of it. And this is my second time of doing this on my second dough. So I just pulled on it. I told you not to do that. I get impatient. That's why I do that. It's time for bed. I don't want to waste time. It is 10 o'clock here right now. And I started this 10 o'clock at night. I started this at 1 o'clock today. So yeah, it's time to go to bed. All right, I'm putting that back in to the new bowl. I'm gonna rinse off my hands real quick. They're a little bit sticky and doughy. And I did tell you earlier that you would want to wear an apron for these stretches, because you get dough and crust on your shirt otherwise. And I think you can probably see I need to wash my apron. But this is what'll happen to your shirt if you don't wear an apron. So, all right. So we have both of our balls of dough ready to go. The next step is we're going to put it in the fridge. Normally, if I was going to be awake longer, I would leave it in the fridge for an hour. The second I put it in the fridge, I'm going to turn my oven on to 500 degrees. And I have a convection oven. It has a switch to turn on. So I turn on my convection. If you don't have convection, that's okay. You don't need it. It does help give you a more even bake, and it just circulates that air better. But any kind of oven will work. 500 degrees though, if your oven has that temperature, that's what you want. And you're going to have your Dutch ovens in the oven. So I'm actually going to take you over to the oven and show you. I already have my Dutch ovens in place, ready to go. It's kind of dark in here, but there's a red one and there's a black one. So the black one is going to be for my sandwich loaf. The red one is going to be for my round loaf, which I think they call a bowl, but it's French. It's spelled with a B-O-U-L-E. Maybe they say boule. I don't know. I don't speak French, but that's the shape it'll be. It's going to be rounded. So now, and I did not turn my oven on because I'm going to bed. There's a sticky note on there for my husband to turn it on tomorrow morning. So Eric's going to get up at 5:30 and turn on the oven. And I'm going to get up at 6:30, which is when I got to go to bed. And I'm going to put these in the oven at 6:30. Right now, though, they're going to go in the fridge overnight. So like I said, a minimum of an hour, but you can let them go all night long. I have my friend who I told you about earlier, that started me doing sourdough says that she actually prefers it when it goes all night. I've tried both. I don't see a difference really, but it won't hurt anything. So that's the important thing. So these are going to go in the fridge tonight. And then tomorrow morning, bright and early, you get to come back to the kitchen with me and I'll show you how I'm going to put them in the oven. I know it seems like you don't need to see that because it sounds simple, right? It's not quite as simple because we have to use this guy. This is a razor blade that's on this little wand. You don't have to have one of these. When I first started making sourdough, I literally used my kitchen shears, just these guys, and I would just cut an X in the top, and that worked just fine. And then when it bakes, that X would kind of make these little points that got really crispy, and that can hurt the roof of your mouth. So then I started cutting like a crescent shape, and that was very pretty. But now I have this tool that came in one of those sourdough making kits, and so you can do some other designs. I don't get that fancy. I've seen people paint on their sourdough. I don't do any of that. I really just, you're trying to cut it to get a spot for the steam to come out so that it doesn't get stuck inside. So otherwise you get too many bubbles and you get these voids. So that's what I'm going to do in the morning is I'm going to cut this with my razor before I put it in the oven. But I will have my Dutch oven preheated for an hour when these go in. So great. Thanks, Moxie. Appreciate your help. This is one of those little caps I was talking about earlier, like I had on my sourdough starter. I'm just going to put this on the bread bowl here to cover it in the fridge. And that's just going to keep a little bit more moisture in there. Easier said than done, right? These little silicone things are in my way. That's okay. Anyway, you don't have to cover it. You can leave it uncovered as well, but I just kind of prefer that, having something on it. And, plus your refrigerator sometimes might have some odors. So I'm just covering it because it makes me feel better. Not because I don't know. I don't know if I actually need to. I've done it lots of times without covering it, but it makes me feel better. And there we go. Those are ready to go. All right. So that's it for tonight. And I will see you bright and early. Good night.
Good morning. It's bright and early, dark 30 here. Told you I'd be back with you first thing in the morning so that I could put my bread in the oven. So I got it out of the fridge and it's ready to go. So here we go. Just gonna get my Dutch oven out. Eric was kind enough to turn the oven on at 5:30 for me so that we've been heating for an hour. So they're 500 degrees right now. So we want to be quick about this. As quick as you can. But don't burn yourself because that sucks. I've done that. Okay. So first one, just going to lift out the dough with this little sling. Pop it in there. It's in my way. And then I'm going to do my pattern on it. I got to put this because that burner's on. Okay. So with my razor, I'm just going to slice right down the middle just to give it a little bit of venting. And then I like to do a quick little design. Makes it pretty and it's fun. All right. And then we're going to put this back on. And then this one. That wasn't that smooth, but that's okay. And now for the circle one, I like to do kind of a crescent shape. You can get fancy, do whatever you want. This one looks a little sloppier than usual. It's 6:30, I don't care. I'm putting the lid on, and those are going right back down. Okay. Hey Google, 20-minute timer.
Got it. 20 minutes. And that's starting now.
All right, so we'll be back in 20 minutes to take the lid off of both of the loaves, and then that's it. And then we do another 10 minutes after that. Okay, be back in a few.
Okay.
Okay, 20-minute timer just went off. We're going to take off the lids. Hoping for good things. Oh, we got some rice. Good, good, good. They're not too funny looking. Ooh, very nice. Yes. I was a little nervous when I put it in because it looked a little flat and runny, but hey, guess what? Like usual, it turns out. Okay. Now we have 10 more minutes to let it get brown because we don't want a pale loaf. And then it's done. All right. Hey, Google, 10-minute timer.
Second timer for 10 minutes.
Okay, it's done. Moment of truth. Awesome. So, as you can see, it turned out great. But I think that the long, skinny one always looks a little bit better than the one. Has more texture, design, color. So, that's how you make sourdough. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something, and I hope you have great success making your own sourdough too. Let me know. Bye. Let that cool off. These do not grab things well. Jeez. I never struggled this much. Oh, for crying out loud. There we go. All right.